Everyone, it's Mary Ellen, and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all things related to the storytelling industry. As you can tell from the title, we are already in October. So it is time for the Q3 2025 update on my journey to becoming a full-time author. Now, if you have never seen one of these videos or you have no idea what I'm talking about, I will link the playlist somewhere so that you can check it out and get caught up. But essentially, I created this series. Oh my goodness, I think it's like at least a year and a half ago, might be longer than that, I'm not sure. And the reason I did so is because I really wanted to make a valiant effort at becoming a full-time author. I made this idea that like I'm in my 40s, I'm going to just really give it a go. And in order to hold myself accountable, I'm going to do these quarterly check-ins so that I can, keep myself accountable. But also, I thought it was a good way to also encourage others. So maybe your goal is not to become a full-time author. Maybe your goal is to launch your career. Maybe it's to grow your career. Maybe it's to try a different genre. Whatever it is, it's an opportunity for you to also set your goals. And then once a quarter, we all get together and we talk about how we're doing and what we've achieved and what we haven't achieved. So feel free to check out the playlist. But usually the way this works is I start off by reviewing what my goals were for the quarter. I talk about my career as an author in general, and then I set goals for the next quarter. So Q3 is done. Let's talk about it. So if you've been following my channel, I've already done some kind of mini updates as I've gone along. So you already know the answers to some of these questions, but let's talk about it in more detail. All right, my first goal for Q3 was to finish Growing Up Haunted. For those of you who don't know, Growing Up Haunted is a book I'm co-writing with my sister, and it's talking about growing up in a haunted house. My goal was to finish my portion of the book. I knew that my sister would most likely not have time for her portion of the book, and I was okay with that, but I wanted to get my portion done so that I could move on to other projects and other areas of writing. And I did really well. I made a ton of progress on it. And then budget season at work hit, and we got really busy for maybe like a month or so. But we got really busy for a few weeks there, and there wasn't a lot of time to write. And then after that, I ended up with like a barrage of problems in my personal life, like with how home repairs and health and all that kind of stuff. And so it just kind of took a back seat. So my goal for this back half of October and the first half of November is to really finish up my portion of Growing Up Haunted so then my sister can take what's there and run with it on her side of things. And then hopefully we can get this book done, pretty quickly because it's just a memoir type book. So it's easy to write. It's just sitting down and actually putting it down on paper. All right, my second goal was to explore whether or not I wanted to write young adult. And if you follow me, you'll know a couple videos back, I said no to this. Now, I did put a lot of research into it, and I looked into what all the genre entails. I read the top authors in the genre. I went to a library and I read books. I put a lot of time in research. I spoke to people who have kids, and I was like, hey, your kids in this young adult range, what are they reading? What type of books they love? What kind of authors are they talking about? And while I do actually like the genre, and I do think it's something I could probably explore in the future, it's not something I want to do right now. I realized that if I want to grow my career, I need to focus on one spot because it felt very much like my attention was being split in two directions, right? You had fiction Mary and then you had nonfiction Mary. I thought that for me and my workload, it was going to be much easier for me to focus on one genre only. And since nonfiction paranormal has been where the most success has been in my career, and also my sister and I do have the podcast that ties into it, it makes sense to focus on the paranormal stuff right now. And then once my paranormal career is established, then I can venture into other genres. But right now, I'm putting all of my focus into nonfiction paranormal writing. And my third goal was to explore other ideas for freelancing because I was realizing at the time that editing and beta reading for me were just not working out. Because in order to be a good editor and a good beta reader, you have to have time to spend on the projects, right? Like, I can't give you solid feedback on your book unless I have time to read the book and marinate in the book and really understand what you're trying to do there. And I felt like I just didn't have the time in my schedule to do that thoroughly. but I still wanted to explore ways to offer freelancing services. It's important to diversify your income if you're going to be an author and you're making money off of it. But also, I love the idea of helping other authors. That was the reason I first started my AuthorTube channel. And as I have said a million and a half times, I am not an expert at all, but I have learned as I've went. And through learning as I've went, I have learned a lot of things that are helpful to other people. So I was really thinking, like, what can I offer that would genuinely be helpful? The other thing is that whatever I offer, I want to be affordable, because I realize that we are all in different walks of life, and realistically, most self-published authors do not make much money out the gate, if ever, depending on what genre and how your career is going. So whatever I offer needs to be affordable, and it needs to be accessible, and actually helpful, not just like regurgitating something someone can get free on the internet. So one of the ideas I've been exploring, well, a couple of the ideas. One of the ideas is maybe offering mini courses, but I need to explore how to do that, because again, I want it to be affordable. I'm not going to have you pay $100 to find out how to self-publish a book. Like, that's not affordable to a lot of people. And realistically, you can probably find that information online if you really wanted to. But what if I could come up with something clear, concise, and to the point that's $10? You know what I mean? Like something that's actually helpful to people and accessible. And so I'm looking into how to do that and how to offer it to people. And the same thing with digital downloads. So a lot of people have asked me to share my templates and my planners and things with them, my checklists, because I'm a big fan of creating what I want things to look like. So what I'll do is I'll see a checklist or a planner from one person. I like this, but I don't like this. And then this planner template from this person. I like this and this, but I don't like how this is. I like this better. What if I took this and put them together? And then I would just make my own template, checklist, planner, whatever, cheat sheet, whatever. So I have a lot of kind of homemade, hodgepodge cheat sheets that I use for novel writing, planning, plotting, checklisting things I need to remember to do, marketing tips, things like that. And I was like, how can I compile those in a way where I could actually offer those out to people? Like, hey, for a couple bucks, you can get my novel writing planning sheets or something, just so that it's, again, available if people are interested in it. So I've been looking into things like that. That's more like passive income ideas. And when my schedule allows, I would love to get back into editing and beta reading, because that's really what I love the most. But I just don't have time right now. So what can I offer that's still helpful but not time consuming? So I don't know what all of that looks like yet, but I'm still working on it. So I'll be honest with you guys, before I talk about Q4 goals, this has been a really rough quarter for both me and my sister. For me personally, the home repairs, health issues, I had to go to the emergency room a few times. I had emergency vet visits with the dog a few times. Between all of that stress, the normal day job, because you obviously you work. So I mean, you're going to have different stresses different times for day job. My job's not too bad, but budget season's stressful for any revenue manager. And then financially, because of all the home repairs and medical bills, you know, I'm struggling to pay bills. I'm struggling to make it right now. There's really nothing I can do about that. It is what it is. And there wasn't a lot of energy, time, or really passion to work on writing. I really struggled. I really genuinely thought about throwing in the towel on absolutely everything and just being like, I'm just going to read my books, do my crafts, and just that's it. Why even try? You know what I mean? I reached that point. Something that was a big topic for me that was a difficult one was the podcast this year. So, as you guys know, I do a podcast with my sister. We've been doing it since March of 2020, and we have had so many amazing opportunities come from the podcast. But between my health issues and stress and depression and issues that my sister was dealing with on her end of things, the podcast was actually more stress inducing than fun this year. And at one point, we had a discussion of whether or not we keep doing the podcast or will we throw in the towel. But after having a discussion, I was like, the problem is we both want to keep writing paranormal books. And it doesn't make sense to give up our main platform, which is the audience and the community that we have built around our podcast, to throw in the towel on that and then try to write books and sell them to people. Like you're giving up your audience, and you're also screwing over realistically all of these people that have supported us since March of 2020 and have been along for this ride. Just be like, yeah, we just don't feel like doing this anymore, so we're throwing in the towel. It's kind of shitty, let's be real. And so we were like, let's just get through the season and regroup. And one of the discussions that we had was, instead of working on the season as we're going through the season, we need to have it done before we start. So, like, we know that every year, for example, every year, August, September, part of October is budget season at my job. It just is. We also know that August and September is the beginning of the school year for my sister. She's a teacher. And knowing that August and September suck for both of us, we don't have time to work on podcast stuff. We don't. We have too much going, right? So have those written already. We need to work smarter, not harder. And rather than throw in the towel, let's take the off season and work ahead so that we're not actually working during the season. So it was a good learning experience, but it was emotionally difficult because I was also like, I just made this decision to focus on writing paranormal. If we give up the podcast, how does that work? You know what I mean? Like, what are we going to do? So looking back at 2025, paying attention to goals and really looking at how much I did not accomplish this year, in a lot of ways, my writing career went backwards in 25 instead of progressing. And that's because instead of capitalizing on any of the progress I made as M.E. Laverne in my fiction writing, I kind of threw that all aside to focus on paranormal only. Again, that's a choice I made, but it also is kind of starting over in a way, right? Because I was putting so much focus on my fiction writing. That was really what I was trying to grow. That now switching to something different means that I've lost any momentum. And it's making me question whether my 5-year plan actually makes sense at this point in time, because I don't know that I can get where I want to go in 5 years for a couple of reasons. Is that number one, there's been a lot of changes. I'm not going to go into details because it's not my area of expertise, but there's been a lot of changes to like payment structures through a lot of self-publishing sites. There has been changes to algorithms on social media, big one being TikTok, which they just announced is going to be retrained by Oracle. So what is that going to look like? TikTok has always been the one place where authors can easily grow. And what does that look like when they change the algorithm? Can we still easily grow? And of course, the other one being the rise of AI. And as a fiction writer, you still contend with AI, very much so, because there's a lot of fiction and especially romance books being spit out by AI right now. But I am finding that in paranormal nonfiction, which is what I want to write, unfortunately, I have seen a ridiculous amount of AI generated nonfiction paranormal books on Amazon that are actually selling. Like, they have reviews and they're selling. And when you download them and you look at them, you can tell that it's either AI or it's someone who's just regurgitating a website or a Wikipedia article. How can I, as an author who actually does my own research, tries to find unique spins on things, how can I compete with AI who people are just spitting out book after book after book after book? I mean, you can release 10 books in a year, 12 books in a year, more than that if you're spitting them out through AI. Meanwhile, it takes me, 6 months to a year, depending on the book, 6 months to a year if I'm doing actual research to look into all this historical stuff for a paranormal book. How do I compete with that? And can I compete with that enough to make it a full-time job? I, in a lot of ways, feel like maybe a full-time author, if you, depending on what genre you're in, may not necessarily be possible. I hope I'm wrong. I sincerely hope I'm wrong. but I don't know if any of the other authors out there are feeling just really discouraged right now with the AI stuff. And I feel like 25 so far has just not been productive for me. All right, now that we're all depressed, what are my Q4 goals? All right, number one, I'm finishing Growing Up Haunted. We already talked about that earlier. Also, I need to finish my audiobook. The files are recorded. I just need to edit them and upload them. So get those all done. I'm hoping to have all of that uploaded and done by mid-November. Give me like 30 days and I want to have all that done. Goal number two, research and launch my digital products. So I have ideas on what I want to do. The question that I have is how and where to launch them. Goal number three is to start collecting data and research for my haunted books. So the first one is, of course, the haunted colleges and university. And I also have a book idea that I would like to do either with my sister or on my own. I don't really care, but I want to do one for Porter County, Indiana, which is actually where I live. So I'm starting to collect ghost stories from my area so that I can hopefully compile those into a book. But yeah, I need to start doing research. And the reason why I want to do that now is because our colleges and universities book, if we want to reach out to the college campuses, we need to do that during the school year. You cannot reach out to, I mean, you could reach out to the college in June, but it's going to be much harder because so many colleges are on break. Some colleges are going to have summer classes, some won't. And it's going to be much easier to set up time to go take photos, to possibly interview people about the history of the college, to maybe connect with students about ghost stories on the college. All that research really needs to be done during the school year. It can be done during the summer, but I figure if I'm going to start reaching out for ideas, it makes sense to try to do those and setting up those interviews now so that I can start collecting the research, and then hopefully, by beginning of next year, middle of next year, we can start actually taking all this research and creating the book from it. So I think that's my goal. I'm going to start with colleges and universities. And then once I have that research compiled, I'm going to work on my neck of the woods because it's going to be much easier in my neck of the woods to get information all year round. But yeah, collecting data and research, interviews, all the stuff to start putting our book together. And last but not least, number four, this is an easy one, and this is one that I should be able to knock out pretty quickly. I need to update all my socials and my websites. Like, since I'm focusing on paranormal, pink with flowers, which was my theme for M.E. Laverne, may not make sense when you're talking about ghosts. I need to go back and think about what screams paranormal. How do I change my taglines, my graphics, my colors? Do I need to update my logo? Like, how do I update all of my stuff? And then I need to go through all of my socials and update my author descriptions, all the stuff. That should be easy, but it's just like going through and listing all the stuff that I need to change and then working my way through the checklist. So that might be something really good to do, like on a weekend, sit down on Saturday and knock them all out, because you can copy and paste your bio and everything. So anyways, that's a silly one, but I need to update all of my online presences to scream paranormal and not romance and kissing. So there you go. Those are my goals for Q4 of 2025. So I want to hear from you guys. Tell me some of your favorite things you accomplished in the third quarter and what are you working on for Q4? And as always, if you like this video, make sure you like it, share it, subscribe, comment, all the things. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.